I like him and Casemiro together. I think Casemiro's performances have stepped up alongside Ugarte.
Manchester United 3, Leicester 0. Another win under Ruud van Nistelrooy in his final game. Stephen Howson is here to take us through that one. Steve, just a bigger picture before we sort of dive into that game. Under Van Nistelrooy, it's 4 games, 3 wins, 1 draw. We're 4 points off third, which how on earth has that happened? Yeah, you raise your eyebrows. You didn't even know that until now. We've got 14 points. Forest in third have got 19. What is, how mad is that?
It's good until you'd be like, we've nearly caught Nottingham Forest.
I know, yeah. Well, Arsenal are behind them. Chelsea, Newcastle are behind them as well, so they're doing all right. I think Arsenal are playing right now for full transparency. They can go ahead of Forest, but as it stands, 4 points off third. How mad is that?
It definitely gives you a slightly different perspective on what feels like an absolute write-off of a season.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, so bigger picture, it's probably never as good or bad as it feels, is it really?
No. That's how emotion gets sort of inserted into every situation and paints its own story, doesn't it? And I think looking at some of the players today, there's a different emotion around them. And I don't think it was a great performance by any means, but I just think they don't seem to have quite that same weight that was on them just a couple of weeks ago. It feels like Van Nistelrooy hasn't sort of, revolutionised things, but he's just sort of allowed a little bit of the pressure to be removed from him, or maybe just sacking 10. I'll remove that pressure. Why do you think we have seen that turnaround?
Yeah,
is it just as simple as that?
Is it a case of you sacking a manager has been a bit of a pressure release valve, and is the job of an interim manager not to just make it feel easier for the lads and take the pressure off? Is that not the job of an interim manager? The interim manager is there to do essentially nothing except don't crash this boat before we hand it to that guy, innit?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, just don't rock the boat. Let it all be as chill as possible. I don't know specifically what it is that he may have done. That as he might have changed training times. He might have said, lads, we're going to play 5-a-side today. You don't know what it is that he's done to just change up the mood in there. But I don't think that there's been 3 wins and a draw on paper is a fantastic achievement for those 4 games. Would we have lost those 4 games with Erik ten Hag, though? I don't know if we would. I don't know if the results have massively been altered under Ruud van Nistelrooy or not. I still think we've been fucking boring in those 4 games. I think, yes, there was an element of control at times a little bit today, but we still weren't creating loads, really, in the grand scheme of things. We had 3 shots on target and won 3-0, Joseph.
That doesn't feel very Man United, does it? That's not the United way. We have 9 shots on target and don't score. That's what we should be doing.
That's the reality of... Yeah. That's the reality of how it was today. We had 3 shots on target.
Yep.
We won 3-0.
Just on some of the performers today then. I'll start with Bruno. Obviously, he's been getting stick up and down. I mean, he always gets stick, so it's almost not worth mentioning. But goal and an assist for him today, and sort of made the other goal go in as well. I'm
giving him the second.
Yeah, go on. So 2 goals and an assist by your...
I actually don't think it was on target, but it's his goal.
Yeah, it's his goal. Thoughts on his performance today, and just generally how he sort of stepped up in the last couple of games, back on the score sheet, back in there with the assist as well.
I think he's been delivering quite a lot of chance creation for the majority of the season. He had a couple of games where he did waver, and earlier on in the season he really wasn't finding his feet in terms of creation for other people. And you're kind of okay, so it wasn't necessarily that he wasn't scoring or assisting. Yes, that's a byproduct of what's going on, but he wasn't creating the chances either a little bit earlier in the season. And you're he doesn't really do anything else if he's not doing that thing. So I don't know if it was teething problems. I don't know if he just needed to get into the rhythm. I don't know what it was, but yeah, I think certainly the last couple of games, he's had 6 key passes in both of those games or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice to see him doing that. And I think it's probably worth a bit of a reflection on Bruno on his 250th game, which, there's not a lot of players that get to that milestone for starters at Manchester United. There's been some poor ones that I've got there in recent years because of how shit we've been. But I wouldn't put Bruno in that category. I think his numbers have been worthy of a Sir Alex Ferguson player.
Yeah.
The goals and assists he's contributed in that 250 games, it's world class.
Yeah.
And even if I don't necessarily think he's playing at a world class level currently, the numbers he's produced at least unarguable world class numbers.
Yeah, they are. He's got over 150 goals and assists in those 250 games. And he's not just a sort of luxury player either, for my money. He works as hard as anyone. He tracks back. He's sprinting up and down constantly. And sometimes it's almost misguided, his energy, and he tries to do too much. But at least he's trying. There aren't too many players over the last 3 or 4 years who can say they've tried as hard as they possibly can in every single game for Man United. And he can. And he plays in almost every single game for Man United as well. I think, like you said, a phenomenal player that would have been a crucial member of any Sir Alex squad and maybe even first team as well. I think he's been a brilliant player for United.
You see all the time, don't you? People go, I wouldn't give a shit about this team if they just looked like they cared. Yeah. Okay, well he does, still gets shit. If he just scored and did nothing else, okay, well he does that, he still gets shit. I wouldn't care about these players if they just play and be available all the time. Well, he does all 3 of those things and he still gets shit.
Yeah.
What do you want? Yeah. Oh, he throws his arms up, right? We'll fuck him off, then, eh?
I know.
Because can't have that.
Exactly. And also another one for you. He's made more chances for his teammates than any player in Europe's top 5 leagues since he arrived at Man United. No one has made more chances than Bruno Fernandes in Europe since he arrived.
So clearly, we got to ask the question here: is it enough?
Yeah, it's shocking, isn't
Should
it?
he have not done more?
Exactly. Since he arrived at United, by the way, his teammates, the chances he's created for his teammates, have underperformed by 15 goals. He should have had 15 more assists than he has had in terms of the stats. So he's making chances consistently every single year in, year out, and consistently, the strikers and the players in front of him aren't putting the ball in the back of the net. But he is a phenomenal player. Another one who was brilliant today is Manuel Ugarte. Depending on what stats you look at, anywhere between 6, 8 or 10 tackles I saw on one tweet and one sort of stat page. But regardless of the specific numbers, he was absolutely everywhere today, wasn't he? Winning the ball back, a little bit of trickery as well with his possession at times, looking like he's getting a bit more confident there.
Yeah, I'd say confidence is a good one. I do think it was one of his best performances in the United shirt. His pass accuracy had gone through the roof. He's winning his duels, not just tackles, but he's winning all sorts of other duels as well. He even managed a key pass with a ball through to Garnacho. So he's growing into the league, and people forget that sometimes there's a little bit of a settling in period that you're not allowed to have anymore. Certainly, United players aren't allowed to have. I like him and Casemiro together. I think Casemiro's performances have stepped up alongside Ugarte. I think that having someone he knows is reliable on a physical point of view to cover maybe this half of the pitch or that certain scenario allows Casemiro to have a look around rather than have to tear ass into somewhere. And because he's been able to sort of downshift a gear a little bit, we're seeing a really high level of performance out of Casemiro as well now. Still, he still takes a bit of a risk sometimes with passes, but he wins the ball back and he makes some crucial blocks and crucial tackles at crucial times. So him and Casemiro, I just mentioned this on my own review, so I'm not trying to double bubble this here, but I think it's a point worth making is I don't think you're going to see the best out of them in games that we're going to probably win, like Leicester at home. I think when you'll see the best out of these two is probably when we go to the Etihad, when we go to the Emirates, when we go to Anfield. I think that those two there, two real strong sort of central midfielders that are going to put a defensive performance in you can rely on, I think that's when we're going to start to see the best out of those two.
Yeah, it's exciting that we've got a few different options for different styles as well. Looking slightly wider then, Ruben Amorim comes in tomorrow, basically. We don't know if Van Nistelrooy will stay on or not. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see on that one. But if you're him, these next 2 weeks between now and the Ipswich game, you get the players, more, maybe more of them than you'd think as well, because a few of them have dropped out of their national sides because of their performances in the last sort of 12 months. What are you trying to bring to Manchester United in the next 2 weeks? What is Amorim's sort of first tasks when he arrives?
I think He needs to go and have a look at the players that he's got on the training ground. He needs to watch some tape. He needs to have some discussions with some of the existing coaches, whether that's Rude or some of the more behind-the-scenes type ones and analysts. What I would be doing if I was him is the second I can. So this is probably going to end up being next week rather than this week because of the ones that we are going to miss on international break. I need a behind closed doors games with a quickness, with a decent opposition, a National League or a League One or League Two opposition. Let's get them in on a Wednesday morning, 10:30, and let's have a game. And let's do it behind closed doors or at Carrington, and no one needs to know how this goes down. But I'm going to see if the lads can, if I've got a shape in mind, if it's the 3-4-3, let's have a look at it. Let's, the things that we've been talking about in recent weeks. Let's try Harry Amas. Let's try Anthony. Let's try people in the positions that I think I might need to try them in. And let's try an array of players. Let's try different options. Like, I was chatting today, down in town today, about what if Victor Lindelof turns out, like, we're all thinking it's going to be Lenny Euro breaks into this as a back three. If it's Victor Lindelof, great. Like, personally, I've kind of written him off as a backup or someone to get sold. But if everybody gets a clean sheet, why could it not be someone like a Victor Lindelof that comes in? And people will kick off because Victor Lindelof represents something that they think. But actually, if he's the one that can play the system that he wants, same if it's Anthony. There's a free hit here with Anthony. Like, he ain't a right winger that's going to do fucking anything of note for Manchester United. I think we can absolutely guarantee that, all of us. So if you try him as a left wing back, it's a free hit. Because if he's shit, well, we knew he was shit. So, okay, he's shit there as well. Bin him. But if he's good, well, he might just get you through a few weeks till you can, or months before you can bring in someone you actually want to play there. So I would say the first thing he's got to do is he's got to figure out what formation he's going to play. Probably as an A and probably as a B. And he might just go, do you know what? You're kind of already playing roughly what I like as a 4-2-3-1. I don't hate 4-2-3-1. We will play 4-2-3-1. And then maybe come summer, when he understands the players a little bit better and he's had conversations with them, and maybe they've had 10, 15 games in training during the week against your Blackpools and people like that have come down and had a game against us. Maybe come the start of August next year, United do play that 3-4-3. So I've got no expectation of anything drastic happening immediately. It might not. He's got to figure out what he's got at his disposal. If he doesn't think he can play the system effectively, forcing us to play a system that doesn't work for us is even worse of an idea than anything else you can come up with.
Yeah, perfect. Right. Thank you very much, Steve. Cheers for joining us. Thank you at home as well. Hit subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Manchester United 3, Leicester 0. Another win for Van Nistelrooy. A perfect interim performance, really, from him in total. Clean sheets here. Goals scored there. Points on the board. Come on, it's not too bad, is it? See you in a bit.